Hey everyone, how are you going? It's it's been a little while since my little update about the treatments and things like that. So I think last time I was the doctors had arranged for my treatments to sort of pack in over that Australia Day long weekend, so I could get home with the boys and sort of send them off to school and get Jack off to high school and see Harry back to school. Came back down after that and had my next scan. That was only last Wednesday. So got that scan and they were ready to just leave the hospital and go back and do my normal hanging around thing, waiting for the next thing. And they said to wait, might need to get an emergency MRI. So my hip was getting a bit involved and a little sensation in the leg. So I knew it had gotten bigger, and I knew it had wrapped around a nerve in the left side of my spine. And they came back and they wanted to prep me for an emergency spinal decompression. So I knew I didn't have the symptoms for that, and they were talking quarter equina syndrome, and there's bladder and bowel issues and all these sorts of things that go with that, which I didn't have. But they were pushing on with spinal surgery regardless. Was not having a bar of it. Anyway, PET scan that had grown. Last treatment that they were hoping would be really successful wasn't. Day getting tests. They got me into my radiotherapy planning session, a CT scan, to measure everything up for my radiotherapy, which I was really excited about. Really looking forward to, and it had been postponed because they wanted to find some chemo or immunotherapy that was going to be effective at making sure the lymphoma hadn't spread anyway. Big thing from the PET scan was that it hadn't. They couldn't see any. Apparently it's got to be about half a centimetre square, half a centimetre cube, sphere, to show up on the PET scan, but there's no sign of it anywhere else apart from that lump in my lower back, but it had grown. So we're after they decided that I didn't need the surgery, got out the next day and they started radiotherapy straight away. So that was great. And over the last week, getting power and sensation back into the leg and everything's going well without having to go under the knife, which would have just been a disaster. Anyway, that was good. Made last Wednesday interesting. Common sense prevailed. Radiotherapy's going well, and off the back of that, if radio-oncology get their way, we're going to have a bone marrow transplant sooner rather than later. Need remission. I had a good meeting with the hematologist after their Tuesday meeting, which they're quite excited to have. It's an aggressive resistant lymphoma, and the fact that it's growing so fast has everyone really excited. So apparently everyone between Sydney and the Queensland border was on the phone call about my bloody case study. So I'm getting so much input from so many people. Everyone's interested. So it's nice. So radio oncology sounds like it's had a win. Continuing immunotherapy, because I agree with radio oncology in that it looks like it could be working. It hasn't spread, well, it should have, and it's so aggressive that if it had spread, it's had 4 months to grow and it hasn't. So the big thing is, if radiotherapy can shrink this main lump, and it really has to get rid of it, for the bone marrow transplant to have a chance to fight any other lymphoma that's floating around. So it can go after cells, but it won't overcome the big lump like there is now. So they have to shrink that. And my symptoms are changing. I can't feel it anymore, which was a big development. It was actually big enough to feel poking out of my back. That's all changing so fast with the radiation. And the plan is total body radiation, chemo, continue immunotherapy, do all of that stuff as aggressively as possible to get ready for this bone marrow transplant. An interesting thing with the scan though, the radiotherapy will increase the glucose uptake, so the PET scan will be glowing like crazy in that area regardless. And there's a zone of error around the lymphoma, so that they get the area, but then they go around it so they don't miss any cells that are just sort of sitting off the edge. It's going to be glowing, so we won't know if it's lymphoma or an artifact, a result of the treatment. What they're going to look for on that PET scan is that there's no lumps developed anywhere else. That's the big thing. If I'm not in remission, if that lump isn't gone, the hematologist said they'll be killing me with the transplant. So the radio-oncologist is, I'm happy with what she's saying. It's it's fastest chance, best chance, and they've got that's plan A. Plan B and C are more immunotherapies and targeted therapies, and like the venetoclax and the immunotherapies I've mentioned before, where they cover up receptors and allow my immune system to pick up on the lymphoma. There's other ones where they bond with my immune system. They recognize the lymphoma, they recognize my white cells, my killer cells, the T cells, and they bring them together. So there's two receptors, they link to each and they bring them together and allow my immune system, they hold my immune system against the lymphoma and let it kill. And there's ratios like 20-1 or something. They need lots of T cells to lymphoma cells and things like that. So really important that we get that lump down so that it's at a size where my immune system or my post-transplant new immune system is capable of attacking cells. So breaking it up is a big thing. And that's one thing Susan Carroll, my radio-oncologist, was saying, that the treatments may have been working, but this lump was restricting access, like the circulation wasn't penetrating it well enough to supply the chemo and the immunotherapy to have that effect. And after the first salvage chemo 2 rounds ago, when it fragmented, I always considered that was a good thing to open it up. So yeah, I think me and her are on the same page in terms of that, and the lack of systemic options that have become lack of effectiveness from the systemic stuff, from the hematology side of things, is really pushing us in this direction anyway. So I'll put in the video of the radio-oncology planning, the radiotherapy. It's just, Sue talked me through it and she let me get a video of all the planning. It shows how accurate they are now compared to like 20 or 30 years ago with the placement of the beams. So the radiotherapy itself is really specific, and it just traces out a 3D model of my lymphoma with that error. It avoids my kidneys, avoids my pelvis as much as they can. They have to go through there to hit the thing which is affecting my bone marrow and stuff like that a little bit tired, whatever, goes through the bowel a little bit. But the amounts of radiation in the organs compared to the lymphoma is so small, and the nerves are really capable of absorbing a lot of radiation, more than twice the lymphoma, and so the lymphoma is quite sensitive to radiation. So yeah, it's just a great little video showing concentrations of radiation and everything else. So technology is amazing. And then after this, we're going to total body irradiation, where they're going to fry everything, which I don't know much about at the moment. There's long-term side effects, and right now long-term sounds good. Cataracts and stuff like that. Cope with that, eh? So yeah, total body irradiation, then chemo coming up. Yeah, a few uncomfortable weeks ahead, but if they can pull it off, get a result. Let's see what else has happened. They're the big ones, but I'll attach the video at the end, and it's just good pictures. Lucky to be living where we are. Yeah, okay. Thanks. I'll give you some updates. I've got a big meeting apparently on Tuesday. That's after they have a morning meeting on Tuesdays, I think, with the whole team, which is yeah, that's where everyone's sort of contributing their opinions and things. So I'll have some more updates from Sue on Tuesday afternoon about how we're going and the schedule for the transplant. Okay, thanks guys.
I'll just get an angle where you can see all this in 3 things. So that's your bladder there. Yep. This is your spine here, the lumbosacral spine, and this is looking at in your 3 different, your sagittal, your axial, and your coronal. And so this is your axial slice. Yeah. And so this volume here in the blue is a combination of fusion of your PET scan and MRI scan, which gives us we call your tumour volume, your gross tumour volume. So that's being contoured with your PET scan and your MRI fused onto this planning CT. Yeah. So we know that's where we want to get maximum dose, and then we always allow a margin for movement for what we call microscopic disease spread, which is your whole spinal canal. So I wanted your whole spinal canal in the volume, which I've done. Yeah. And so this area here is the area that I've told the planners that I want to get the dose. So, and you can see here, because we use the beam sort of rotates around you and delivers small bits of radiation to all focus in this area, you're getting really high doses here where we want it to go. And then here where your gut is, we've used that, called this an avoidance area. We're getting very small doses, where in the old days we were putting big beams in through here and here and here. So the dose here was quite close to the dose here. So you used to get more gut effects. Now we're getting less than, 15 gray on your small bowel over that whole treatment course. And it's just what we call exit dose. Used to be much higher in the old days. And so the high dose is all just, I can see how they're moving that, is just to there.
Increases as you get into that area.
Exactly. So that's fantastic. And you can see here your bone, and we actually didn't want to treat too much of your bone marrow because that's all in your ileum here. Yeah. So we've tried to avoid this bone at your right ileum as much as possible, but we couldn't avoid a lot of your sacrum because that's where the disease is. So it's coming in through your sacral nerve roots here. Yep, see it's coming in there.
And that's where it's hitting those superior gluteal nerves and things. That's why the hip was...
Exactly, yeah. So that's as I'm moving through.
It wasn't L1, it wasn't that high. So
and then we used a special technique to get off your kidneys because it comes up quite high, but I don't, because if you did bone marrow transplant, we don't want to expose your kidneys to high doses. Yeah. So we've actually made it skinnier here. You get a little bit more dose on your gut, but we made it skinny to come off your kidneys because your kidneys are important.
So that's why my tummy can be a bit, they warn me I might get a bit...
You might get a bit looser, but again, they're pretty low doses. They're like, this is 13 gray over the complete course of your 27 treatments. So they're getting a little tiny bits. So when you add it all up at the end, they're not big doses on your gut, and you might not get any effects at all.
Yeah, that's trivial. Yeah.
So that colour there, this colour is sort of, that's your 15 grey isodose, that area there, and that you're getting that over 3 to 4 weeks. That's actually quite a low dose. So it's a dose that may not give you any gut effects, but it might cause your transit time through your gut to increase a little bit. Yeah.